So while we're on the subject of the UN, we've been seeing a lot of conflicts around the world. We've been seeing Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, problems in Taiwan that could be looming as well. Why do we see a lot of talks about how UN's incapability in handling these conflicts are a major part? What are your thoughts on that, sir?
Okay, may I just go back for a second and try to clarify a general impression that India was offered a permanent seat twice and that Jawaharlal Nehru didn't take it. Now, this impression is historically wrong, because what happened was that 1950 June, the Korean War started. And the Soviet Union started boycotting the UN meetings because China was not let in. 1949 October, PRC came into being. America did not recognize them. So Taiwan, or Republic of Formosa, Chiang Kai-shek, the little island, continued to sit on the Security Council as a permanent member. You see? Then John Foster Dulles, he was Secretary of State. Well, my generation used to say, dull, duller, Dulles. The State Department approached Vijayalakshmi Pandit, Jawaharlal Nehru's sister, ambassador in Washington, saying that America wanted to support India's membership as a permanent member, and India can take China's place, you see. Now, Vijayalakshmi Pandit had no hesitation saying, thank you, but no. And she was right. Two things. One is that it is morally wrong for India to take China's position. But even more than that, it would not have worked out because it was not for the United States to offer it. Why? As I said earlier, the charter can be changed if only the P5 agrees. Now, if America proclaims India as a candidate, you can be sure the Soviet Union will not, I repeat, will not agree. So that was 1950. Okay? There was no real offer. Okay? Now in 1955, when Nehru went to Moscow, Bulganin said, why don't we now start a move for making India a permanent member? So Nehru said, yeah, that's a good idea, but this is not the best time. We'll think about it later. In fact, Nehru had a habit of dictating a note after every conversation, if the note taker was not present. So all this is in EMEA records. And even when Bulganin made it, he had not consulted the United States. You see, it's only when both Moscow and Washington agreed and together said, we want India to be there, then of course it was a proper offer. So there was no proper offer. Now coming back to what you said, the general impression that incompetent United Nations, just a talking shop, wasting time, employing so many people. No, that impression is wrong, because United Nations is not, I repeat, an independent actor in the international realm. It is a forum for the member states to avail of, to discuss their differences, disputes, and come to an understanding for the resolution of those disputes, and use the UN mechanism, whether it's Security Council or any other mechanism. You see?
So it's just a platform for dialogue.
It's a platform for solving problems. But if you don't use it, and why? Because you as P5, look at all the wars. You see the Korean War, for example. Well, it is believed that North Korea started it, But let me tell you, before North Korea started, there was a UN commission for Korea, and KPS Menon, first Foreign Secretary of India. Incidentally, he was on the board of the UPSC when my interview took place. Okay. KPS Menon was the head of that UN commission. And he had made out a plan for holding a general election for the whole of Korea so that both North and South will be united. Neither Washington nor Moscow wanted it. You see? And then election was held in South Korea, and America rigged the election so that a man called Syngman Rhee was made president. You see? And then the war started, 1950. Within less than a year, there was a military stalemate. But before that, let's see what happened. The North Koreans came down and South Korean military just got wiped out. So North was coming down, capital Seoul and all that. They, it came down, Then United States got MacArthur, Douglas MacArthur, general. He got into the act. And there was the so-called United Nations Army, but basically it was a United States Army. Okay? Others contributed. And with MacArthur coming, there was a reversal. MacArthur was moving up. And he crossed 38th parallel, dividing the two and going up. And he had made it clear that he wanted to go right up to the border with China. There is a border between China and North Korea. Around midnight, October 1950, Sardar K.M. Panikkar, Indian ambassador in Peking, we used to call it. Now we call it Beijing. He was summoned to the Foreign Office by Chu Enlai, Prime Minister and Foreign Minister. Ambassador, please send an urgent message to Nehru. What is the message? Unless MacArthur stops and withdraws, goes back to the 38th parallel, PLA, People's Liberation Army, will enter the fray. So, those days we had the cipher, and somebody has to do it in the office. It was done at night, early hours, and our cipher also works 24/7. So, Nehru got the message. He passed on the message to both Truman and also to UK Prime Minister. Truman dismissed it. Well, here is this thin-blooded idealist who doesn't understand the ground realities of geopolitics, telling me. And Truman consulted MacArthur. You know what he said? Mr. President, the boys will be home for Christmas. Back home for Christmas. In other words, he would finish by Christmas time, December 1950. Well, 3 years later, after more than 3 million deaths later, after more than 45 or 50,000 American military deaths later, the ceasefire was on the same 38 parallel, slightly adjusted to North Korea's favor. So the point I'm making is that there was an opportunity to end that war. But Truman did not want to take it.
That's America's role everywhere nowadays as well.
Well, so my point is that, if America wants war, United Nations cannot stop it.
Diary of a Publisher. Here we don't just talk, we explore, question, and push beyond the ordinary. And if you're ready to see things from a fresh perspective, you're at the right place. Make sure to subscribe. We're just scratching the surface, and the next conversation might just change how you see the world.